wanted to ask you, not how, but why dare you to deep dive into this part of history?
That's what we never ask ourselves. I never ask that question, why? I'm just like, no. Films should be something you're compelled to do. You're just obsessed and compelled. So once I had this film in my head, I just saw a finished film from the late 50s about that time, and just, you know, the texture of it, the look of it, the feel of it, the humor, the deep dive into another film. I was just, I don't know, that's just what the film should be, you know.
Do you remember the first time you saw Breathless? Mm-hmm. How was it?
Yeah, it was 1982. I was in my early 20s, and I didn't really understand it the first time I saw it. I liked it, but I was just getting to know cinema and the Nouvelle Vague. But I saw it about 4 months later, or maybe even sooner, a couple months later, and that's when I was like, okay, I got the spirit of it. You know, sometimes when you hear music like a Stravinsky, you know, something, you know, like it sounds kind of, or a Picasso painting, you know, it's like, eh. But then you once you're inside it more, you can appreciate what's new and, you know, the essence of it and what's exciting about the newness of it. So but it's not just a bout de souffle, it's the whole movement. I'm still discovering films from that era that are very exciting, and not just France, it was worldwide, you know, every country had there was something going on worldwide around this time that was very exciting. But I think France was probably better at marketing their, they had the images, a lot of photos, they had like a style, there were songs about it. You know, they made it a thing. So, you know, they marketed themselves very well. And, you know, in the movie you see the iconography being created, and he's taking a lot of photos, and those will go on to be famous photos.
Yeah. Seeing the film, I can wrap my hand around how young was everyone.
Yeah.
Revolving that. And now we have presidents that are like more than 70 in all countries, in all the important countries. So do you think that we like living a gerontocracy in a way that young people is not being listened nowadays?
Yeah, it's so funny. So many fields were about youth. People were always excited about what's next, young people. But there was something about that generation that's a little older than me, that they thought they were pretty special. They weren't going to give it up. They were just going to hang on to the grave. They never ceded ground to new people, which is really dangerous. You have to get new. I mean, they're going to eventually, but that's in everything. That's the arts, that's politics especially. You know, you need new, fresh perspectives. I mean, arts will do that. You can't hold people back. They're going to express their world through art, music, film, everything, dance. But politics is a little different, you know. You have to be kind of forced out, you know.
Speaking about perspective, one can argue that you, in a way, shape what American films look like and feel like in the last 3 decades, 4 decades. So I wanted to ask you, how was that process for you to enter into the French cinema, the French industry in a way? How was that? Did you feel like...
Oh, it felt incredible. It was like I felt I was 28 again in France. It was just like a cinematic dream I had entered into, but with my experience and knowledge, but I felt like 28 again, just making a film of that time. But to do that, you had to really know the period and be specific in the looks. But yeah, it was very freeing. It's pretty, cinema can offer you that. It's like a little magic time machine. You can take you back and, you know, create a moment. But I've done that numerous times with even moments in my own life. I go back and make a movie about my own childhood, or, you know, very specifically. But I like doing that with times I didn't live in. Hardly anyone alive lived in certain times, but you can still go back and imagine what it must have felt like. You do all your research, you have photos, you have everything you have, and it's kind of magical to try to create these moments in history, you know, for whatever purpose. Here it's our artistic history, it's a moment of youthful creativity and revolution in the art form of film. But you can do that anywhere. politically. I just, there's a certain quality to film that allows that, unlike any other art form,
I wanted to ask you about Godard. I was like four months ago in the Fondazione Prada in Milan, where his studio is like preserved. What was your take on Godard before making the film and after? Did it change in a way?
Yeah, I got more information. Well, first off, I'm more impressed with the bout de souffle than I was before. And I mean, I really liked the film. I knew it really well. I don't know if it's even my favorite Nouvelle Vague film, but I knew the film really well. I've probably seen it 25 times over the years. But, and Godard, he really has numerous careers and he's a real shapeshifter, always himself, but you can see the world kind of affecting him. He takes political journeys and leaves the world behind. He comes back, and he's just the ultimate restless artist. And he wasn't out much, even in the last 30 years. People say, "Oh, did you ever meet him?" I'm like, "No, I don't know any filmmakers who met him of my generation." Mm-hmm. He was kind of secluded in Switzerland from, I'd say all the 90s, but I know older people. Oh yeah, he came to my school in 1969. Oh, he was he was out much more. And I don't know what caused him to just be less, I mean, he just kind of went into his little lab and kept making movies, which I admire. I like his films from, I love the 80s, 90s and on. There's a lot of great, always interesting stuff. But he seemed a little curmudgeonly. He seemed a little critical and not very generous and all this stuff. So I was thinking, but then I heard stories from people who knew him that was kind of the opposite of that. Like how he would, he would have approved this movie. He wouldn't have had he would have let you do it. He said yes to everything. I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, you needed to use a clip in him. Yeah, he just said yes to everything. He didn't. I'm like, that's interesting. And then I met some people who knew he had helped out his contemporary filmmakers who weren't, were kind of struggling. He would write them checks and just say, "Oh, for a future project that we're going to do together," even though they're old men and the guy's never going to do anything. But he was generous in a certain way. So I was happy to hear some really good stories about, humanity, that he's a real person.
How's that behind that?
Yeah, he's not just this nutty professor guy,
I wanted to ask you also about the cast as a decision. Mm-hmm. Was there any draft where the cast was made of more famous actors, or did you want to do this?
Well, that's a choice, Of course they want you to, can you get famous people to play, and it makes it easier to finance and all that. So I was so glad it didn't work out that way, because I know it's so much easier for me to watch a film when I don't, historical. If you're seeing someone I would love to turn off the critical thinker in the audience's mind and just say, "Oh, I'm there." The film's trying to take you to a certain place in time. And if there's someone from today too much, you're going, "Oh, they're doing a pretty good," and it can be impressive. A lot of Oscar-winning performances are like, "Oh, look what," fill in the blank. Gary Oldman, "Oh, they're," if you're playing someone famous, it's always like, "Whoa, they're almost like them." But I was like, I was going for something more. I wanted them to be them, and you to believe you're there with no critical analysis going on in your head. I just wanted you to kind of be in Paris in 1969. So an unknown cast is a good start to that possibility.
Of course. Well, sir, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And that's for the best.
Really nice talking to you. Yeah, thank you.